Prinergy now has enhanced ways of finding jobs. If I entered part of a job name, we've always had this function. So for example, any job name containing 1, 2, and certainly variables on that. But this one's listed now. I'll add enhanced criteria to do my search. And I'll say that job last modified since this time, do a search, or before since, and do a search again. And now it hones down my search to one specific job. So additional means of searching for jobs now, more dynamically when jobs are created, job web enabled, last modified, proofs due, number of pages, approved, rejected, substrate name. So very, very dynamic ways we can now do searches of Prinergy jobs within the Prinergy Job Finder. The Job Finder benefits from customizable visible columns. So I can select which part of a job I'd like to see. So do I want to see a CSR, a line screen, the press is designated to, perhaps I'd like to see a trap width in case there's variable trap widths. And these are custom fields that can be activated for different viewers, depends what they want to see. So there's these columns come with every Prinergy system, and these ones can be created. So once you have the appropriate view you want, you'll always get the Prinergy job name that we can do dynamic searches for, but I can also see if it's a web access customer, is the job an insight, and if so, for which customer is it for? I have a column here that's tracking full surfaces, so does the job have a layout or an imposition, and are those surfaces full? So 0, 0 would mean nothing, 1 of 1 means it's completely full, 8 of 8 surfaces and they're all full. So at a glance, you sort of have an idea of where it stands in the imposition or layout. Proofs are due, that's another very popular field. Final outputs are due. Job statuses with RBA, these can automatically be updated in conjunction with an appropriate event. And again, the CSR, if a CSR changed, I could select the appropriate personnel here. So the list would conform obviously to operators or CSRs. You could have a column for each if you wanted. If you had a variable trap width, variable line screen, and every user looking at the Prinergy Job Finder can get a customized view that they would like. Now what I'll do is I'll create a new Prinergy job. To do that, you can go File, New Job, give it an appropriate job name, and I create. I could have done Command N or Control N on a PC as well. And what I'll do is I'm going to actually create a job in a very manual manner, just to try to give you an understanding of the inner workings of Prinergy. And after this, I'll show you job creation with increased automation. So to begin, I have a blank job shell. I'll add my input files. I'll add the starting files for Prinergy. Typically these will be PDF files, but you could certainly do this with JPEG files, EPS files, TIFF files, even Adobe Illustrator files, very popular to use in packaging workflow. We can start with those. You can always open it up to the, for an Illustrator file, I could open it in Illustrator, Acrobat, of course I could open the PDF here. So these are my starting files. What do we want to do with our starting files? We have a few, do you want to go to CMYK? Do you want to apply trapping? Do you want to honor spot colors? I want to do spot colors and trapping. So I select that appropriate process. And now Prinergy will fulfill the instructions contained in the process plan, job ticket if you will, onto these files. So this 16-page PDF now is being normalized, which can include some advanced pre-flighting, color matched, maybe we're going to swap or grackall. All the PDFs themselves will be trapped, and the individual traps in the PDF can be edited at the Acrobat level in our PDF trap editor if required. Everyone wants to leverage automated trapping, and I just want to stress that our trapper is exceptional. But every once in a while, in case there's an overprint or a trap that mandates a little bit of updating, easily done at the Acrobat level. Now, I have 16 pages ready. It's just doing a thumbnail, which is an optional step, giving me a picture of all my pages. And these are ready. And Prinergy pages, you know, if I wanted to, if I double clicked, I can launch it in Acrobat. I can view my pages as thumbnail, as you see here, or we can view as list. Nice thing about a list view if we were doing a customer approval at Insight, I would see the status there. But I'm able to see my spot colors. So I said honor spots, and it did. Doesn't mean they'll all be right though. So what I'm going to do, I see too many spot colors. So I'm going to refine these through Prinergy just to show you the color mapping game, as it can really save us lots of valuable time when colors don't come in as expected. So this silver, maybe I want it to be a cool gray. So any spot color that is slightly misnamed or seriously misnamed can be quickly parented. And perhaps this orange, maybe we want to convert that to process. So I can select how to convert it to process. Prinergy actually tells me what that CMYK recipe would be. And in case I didn't like that, I actually have the flexibility of editing it on the fly. I can put it to any CMYK recipe I want. Usually I'll have it reference a library that will always use the recipe I want, so that step isn't necessary, but you gotta love the flexibility. Now, what if the color I wanted isn't listed here? Oh, this can happen. So if the color I really want is reflex blue, I'll add that color name, I'll say okay. Now any spot or all spots can be converted to the color I just added. Now I could even take process colors and map them to spots. Careful, but if this were a two-color job that came in RGB, went to CMYK, and we want to bring it back to two-color, that can be a handy trick. I will go separate on the process. I'll say okay, and I'll rerun them again. Now Prinergy, as you may recall, trapped these originally, and now that I'm mapping the colors to a reflex blue, and there's a history log that we can verify under history that tracks all this, it'll zap the traps and retrap it according to the new color spec. And now you can see my list view here that color is updated as reflex blue. So we can view as a list or view as thumbnails as we wish. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import an imposition. Any preps imposition that you may have can be imported into Prinergy as easily as this. We'll also support JDF from other sources as well. Many users will use metrics. But you import the JDF whenever you want it. Now, if I want to impose all pages, I could simply drag them into the appropriate position. And you'll see now that that imposition is fully populated. If a page needed to be rectified, maybe it wasn't ready, any page you'd be waiting for still, you'll see the opened number on the imposition. So it's really obvious which pages have arrived and which one hasn't. If a corrected page arrives, you can simply drag it into its appropriate position. Let's make a proof. I'm going to select my preps imposition and my trap Prinergy PDF files and make a proof. The proof I'm making now is called a VPS proof, that's Virtual Proofing System, and it's Prinergy's most popular proof. Prinergy can generate any proof you want. The reason VPS is so popular, because as I speak, the Adobe PDF print engine, Prinergy's RIP if you will, is actually separating this file into 1-bit TIFFs that can be viewed from any computer on your network. So it's just finished in real time producing those TIFF files. Let's scrutinize them. I'm going to open this in VPS. VPS, I might have them fit in my window here. I can zoom to any level I want, and just to show you, this is all about dots. If we're looking at VPSs, I can turn off any combination of my TIFF separations. It's an accurate representation of how this file would separate by the RIP. If I do a Command I, really popular to be able to see my imposition paginations, my trim and bleeds from preps, possibly from metrics. The other thing too is black overprinting. I can, analyze accurately my overprints, my knockouts. Everything is completely apparent in this file. And I think the three things that people love about VPS is the RIP integrity, the accuracy of the dots in the file. That's the first thing. The second thing they like is they cost nothing to produce. It's a zero consumable proof. And the third thing is VPSs can be viewed from any macro PC in your network. I'm doing easy rotations if I wish. There's measurement tools. If I wanted to measure color percentages in any given area, it'll give me an accurate breakdown of that. And also to measure distances, gutters, bleeds, anything like that. I can get quick measurements on any of that information. If I'm finished analyzing the fronts, I'll flip it to the back so I can do sheet-wise analysis. Same idea, go through is black overprinting, quality control scrutiny, check out my my traps, my bleeds, my overprints. And last thing I love to do in VPS is verify a backup. If there's a backup issue, this is where I want to flag it within seconds from imposing it without any consumables. So it does back up nicely, I can see that. But if it didn't, I would measure how far out any given page needed to be offset. So I would know what the offset values, what they need to fix it. In Prinergy workflow, we don't have to go back to our position. Back in Prinergy, I could select a page or any pages, and offset values would be done here. So if I had to move it by a certain amount, plus or minus, I could do that. Enter any offset value in here. I'll just do a slight exaggeration. I'll say OK, and you'll see that that page shifts according to what I entered in there. So I'll move it back, but odd pages, even pages, you can apply offset values. And these typical fixes we would do back at the imposition level. But in Prinergy, no, offsets you do right in the interface here, because if it's an imposition problem, then we fix it at the imposition level. But because if it's just a page issue, which is far more common, it's so much more practical to fix it right here in Prinergy. Now maybe I'm ready to go to a hard copy proof, an Epson proof, and you can have quick shortcuts. You've noticed I've been using shortcuts in the demo. In Prinergy, even if the shortcut isn't set up, you can go to a contextual menu, and I could output any proof or final output in this manner. So have the shortcut or go through a contextual menu. Prinergy will get the job done. If we're ready to go to plate, we typically go to our separations view here. Now I can view all my separations in list mode, so if I had to pick particular separations, this is very practical. If I wanted to output the whole job, there it is, or individual plates, select as appropriate. Prinergy tells me too which proofs I've output. I've always liked that. And for example, if I like the fronts, having proofed them, I can approve or reject them. I'll approve them. Put a comment maybe, not necessary, but it gets tracked. Looks good. When you get the happy checkmark guy, as I like to call it, it means it has been proofed and approved. So it's like an internal check and balance on the proofing. So maybe I'll make plates on the fronts, but not the backs. We'll make plates on the fronts, and again, in Prinergy you can invoke any appropriate screening just before plate making. And nothing could go wrong, it's proofed and approved. Well, sometimes we want to know who said it was okay, and only when things do go wrong. Hopefully not often. But in Prinergy, all questions are answered by our History tab. This entire overview demo on Prinergy I've done is tracked by Oracle database. It knows I created the job. It knows I added the input files. It knows which process I used to run them. It knows about the 3 pages that I re-refined and mapped to Reflex Blue. It knows which imposition I imported, which pages I assigned to that imposition, when I output a proof. And if you tippy these, there's start and finish times on everything. I modified geometry in case it didn't back up. I modified it back, and the last thing I said in this job is that it looks good, ready to go to plates on the front. In a Prinergy environment, you have to appreciate now you have one stop for all team members to see all touch points on this job. And if somebody had started this job yesterday, last night, last week, you would see if it was a different operator. So when were plates made, when were proofs delivered, what was that error? All those questions can all be verified by all personnel, courtesy of the Oracle database tracking everything in Prinergy. It is an immaculate and an unsurpassed view into the production workflow. This also allows us, this level of tracking, allows us to integrate with more management information systems than any other competitive workflow, in large part due to how well we're tracking these events, as you see before us. Let's examine creating jobs in Prinergy with increased automation. This time I'll go ahead and create a new job, Command-N or Control-N. I'll give it an appropriate job name. And rather than click Create, as I did with that first job I showed, this time I'll go to a Prinergy template job. Now this preceding list of every Prinergy job I have can be accessed here, and I'll select the job, and by doing so, I can inherit all of these job attributes. I often call this cloning a Prinergy job. You'll see that in this created job based on a Prinergy template, I have the imposition already. So once you have the appropriate position in any Prinergy job, you can simply clone the job as I did and inherit that imposition. And other attributes are inherited as well. What I'll do now is I'll run some PDF files through this job. I'll select spot colors and trapping. And as Prinergy processes the pages, based on the process template I selected, and again, pre-flighting, color matching, trapping, all the critical steps to get print-ready PDF at our disposal, I should also stress that this can be triggered through a hot folder mechanism at the job level, if that's a preferred way of working. Also, in their inside configuration, files could be uploaded directly from the internet into the Prinergy workflow. And this same concept of a job template can easily be derived within Prinergy and Insight. In this overview demo, the page is automatically assigned to their positions. This can be done through APA. Prinergy needs to know a portion of the naming convention, and we could actually automatically script where those pages go. Now, getting a naming convention wrong is as easy as making a typo. And if that did happen and a page didn't find its position because it was misnamed, it should be noted that as easily as I could remove a page, it can be assigned simply by dragging it to its position. Now let me show you another automation workflow example leveraging the concept of a Prinergy job template, but using something we call smart hot folders. Let me close this job. Here I'm going to take a PDF and I'm going to drag it into a smart hot folder. The smart hot folder will create a Prinergy job on its own. The name of the Prinergy job it will create will be derived from the file that I draw. So we will see in a moment a job created called 122.98884 cover. It will show up in my list here under JP in just a moment. Now another way I've seen Smart Hot Folder used very effectively is also by dropping an imposition JDF file into that Smart Hot Folder. That's another mechanism where it can create the job and then automatically import the imposition. The job gets created. Let's open it up. In the creative job, you will witness that it already has a known imposition. So in other words, the Smart Hot Folder created the job based on a Prinergy job template, as I showed in the preceding workflow example. Our Smart Hot Folder is still working. In a moment, it's going to give, here they are, it gives the pages, the PDFs that triggered the job creation to Prinergy. And now, as it goes through the required preparation steps of pre-flighting, color matching, and trapping, also leveraging APA, whereby the pages automatically get assigned to the imposition. Now in this workflow example, if we were to scrutinize our Prinergy job history, spool server is another way of saying automation, but the job was completely automated without any human touch points beyond dragging a file into that Smart Hot Folder. Now obviously this was Plan A. Plan A's are always good, but Plan A's can fall apart very quickly because the press is busy. Now if that were the case, I should point out that any imposition that you have can be imported into this job as easily as this. So sometimes the best laid plans do fall apart because the press is busy, and with the Prinergy workflow, any imposition can quickly be brought into any Prinergy job should the winds of production change direction. But last thing, that all the automation that you saw in this overview is part of the Prinergy base automation. It is automation that every Prinergy user has. If you'd like to see even more enhanced automation, I encourage you to look at our rules-based automation module, where we can view automation to unsurpassed and extremely customizable levels.